We'll start with Colleen. You've been on such a long journey with Luffy. How has your approach to playing him changed over the years or evolved?
I think it's just relaxed. When I first started, I was so anxious that the voice stay consistent and that I do justice to the character. And I knew there were a lot of eyes on it. And so there's a lot of anxiety all kind of wrapped up in that. And since Luffy is not an anxious character, it's too easy for that to translate into your reads. So I feel like as I've relaxed with him and kind of let the voice be three-dimensional, and it's letting the character be three-dimensional too in the dub. So I think really I've just gotten to be better friends with him.
Awesome. And Brandon, Shanks is such a legendary character to both the characters in the story and the fans who read and watch One Piece. And this is probably his most major appearance in quite a while. How does it feel to kind of play that bigger, more active part in Film Red?
It's wild to actually have, the sort of amount of screen time, and the amount of lines that matches up to how big of a figure he is in that universe. It's on the one hand, it's super fun to be able to come in one episode, every other year and do something really cool and have an awesome one-liner and leave everybody shook, there's definitely a degree of satisfaction in that. But it was really, really fun and sort of refreshing and satisfying to get to occupy some personal and emotional space with Shanks in this movie in One Piece Film Red. Uh, it felt like some long overdue depth, and I really enjoyed it very, very much.
That's cool. And Matthew, Law is such a great foil to Luffy. How do you go about kind of maintaining his stoic personality while still coming off as friendly and amicable? Because they're almost like he's like an older brother to him in a kind of way.
Older brother's a good way to put the dynamic. He feels protective and in many cases subconsciously guiding him on what he thinks is a better path. He can see the potential in Luffy, especially when compared to all the numerous other pirates of dubious morality and intent. He knows this is somebody who could really not just be a powerful ally, but really kind of do things and change the world for the better. As long as he doesn't keep wrecking everything and embarrassing him and being the little brother in the dynamic. And that to me, it's so much fun to play. And the animation goes a long way, with Law, that stoicism and that intensity is just drawn in him, both in like his physicality and his expression, but the Japanese performance is so intrinsic to expressing that. So for me, the joy is taking these pieces that are already presented to me and then putting it through the filter of my interpretation and trying to pay homage to that and do it justice and make it feel honest. And of course, it's made far easier when you get to play off somebody like Colleen, who just brings that I don't know other way to put it, just that intensity and bombastic exuberance that would deeply cut through and frustrate an individual like Law. So it's a blast.
Called painfully loud.
That too. Respect to you, Colleen.
It's funny. Man. I don't want to eat up too much of your time, but it's funny. The characters like Law, who are like the stoic, begrudging, big brother characters, can only be cast with extremely nice people because you have to like them, and that likability has to come through somehow. So you'll find that like it's Matt or Chris Sabat or the people who are the just inherently likable are the ones who get the meh voice characters.
That's so cool.
Little spice.
And Colleen, speaking of that, Luffy has both serious and hilarious scenes all throughout the movie. Which one really stood out as a favorite to perform?
To perform, man, that's a hard question. I'll say I just liked the music so much. So I don't know about what my favorite was to perform, but my favorite parts to act in were always the ones where she was singing at us. Because every time you would come into the scene and she'd be like, rah! It's just singing something, any kind of emotion at your face. It was such a fun way to like get into whatever line it was. Like, I get to scream back at you. It feels, and it's great.
Awesome. And
Definitely has some strong like
Brandon,
rock opera vibes to it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
definitely.
definitely
it.
towards the end, yeah.
Yeah.
And Brandon, Shanks, like you said, like when he shows up, it's a big deal. There's from the beginning of the story or Marineford and Film Red. Which of his big moments has been your favorite thus far?
I've been thinking about this all day, and I think that my favorite moments in One Piece Film Red involve, Shanks having to make really, really human and emotional decisions. And, because we see him so often doing sort of cool pirate stuff. And, to make these sorts of meaningful personal decisions, I think those are my favorites when he has to make a tough choice for someone else's own good. And I obviously I can't say like what scene that is because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. But anyone who sees the movie will know when those scenes come up, and those were by far the most satisfying to work on, I think.
Awesome. That definitely comes out in the film too.
Yeah.
And Matthew, Law has played a really big role in One Piece, especially after the time skip. Did you expect him to become so developed and important throughout the series when he first appeared?
I didn't, but it's been a delightful. It's been a delightful gift. Especially part of a series that is so widely beloved. When I was first asked to take on the role, I was aware of the character. I had friends who were longtime One Piece fans, and at the time, I wasn't up to date. I mean, I read the manga back in the day and just kind of wandered off as life got busy. So I was familiar with the character from what other people who were huge fans of him were, and so when the opportunity came, I was like, well, this seems like a really cool character. Get to play a little story, and then he goes away. That'll be cool. And then he just kept recurring and kept recurring. And every single time he got to have more of his personality, get to learn more about his relationship with his crew, and then his expanding relationship with the Straw Hats. And then just everything just gets crazier from there. And it's, there are certain projects that are a paycheck, and there are certain projects that are, things you're really passionate about. This is a project that every single time an opportunity comes up to perform in it, for me, it's time to play. I really enjoy coming back to this character every time I do. So I'm glad he comes back.
That's
That's
so
so
cool
cool.
of you and Brandon. It's so cool of both of you. Like you're doing things, you're out there, you're doing other things, and we know that. But every time the characters come back and come up, you still are like right back, happy to jump back in, no matter how crazy your lives are, whether you're filming in the UK, Brandon, or Critical Rolling with Matt. It's so awesome that you guys are dedicated to the story and to the fans to come back.
That's because it's a delight. The people working on it and the people watching it. Yeah. Why wouldn't you? This has been a fixture in all of our lives for a long time, and it's a good kind of fixture.
That's awesome. And Colleen, how do you go about changing your voice for Luffy's different forms, especially since there's kind of like a barrage of different Luffy voices towards
Right.
the end of this film?
Yeah. Every gear that happens, they're like, there's another gear. I thought that was the gear. So it just gets bigger. I'm glad that they are finding ways, because I'm sure that she's feeling the same way I am. So I'm glad that they're finding ways in the original to make it different without just being bigger and lower, because there's only so much bigger and lower. And I'm tapped out. But I love that the new ones that are coming up have something different to them. Like in the Gear 4, there's that kabuki feeling, and like a more formal way of speaking, which was totally weird and cool. And then I know that there are things in the future that are going to change, that are going to be different in a unique way. And I like that, exploring him and on all the different levels and all the different ways, when he turns into a zombie, or when he turns into an old grandmother, or he's pretending to be an old man. I love all that stuff.
That's so cool. And Brandon, even in this film where he's so major, there's still a lot of mystery surrounding Shanks. What are some difficulties that kind of come with playing a character that essentially no one but the creator knows everything about?
Well, it's almost like you have to fill in the blanks yourself. Fortunately, I have the guidance of the voice actor, right? So I can sort of listen to his voice for cues, what to do and how to say it, which is nice. But for some of the times, you just sort of have to Yeah, fill in the blanks. And but the wonderful thing about a show that's this big and has been running this long is that eventually you do get answers. You know what I mean? Like it's been going on for so long, and the characters all have really, really well thought out journeys, right? That eventually that stuff does come to light. So it's fun to be creative. Maybe you don't know, right? And then it's really, really satisfying to get a morsel. You know, like in this movie, for example, we get a lot about Shanks's kind of personal life, right? Some really significant personal things that happened to him in his youth. You know, uh, which is really, really satisfying. And yeah, it helps make that sort of fully complete human, I guess. I think I lost track of your question and just started talking. Did that get at what you
No,
were
I think
talking
that
about
answered
at
it
all?
actually. So, I think you got there.
The answer is just you're enigmatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Enigmatic until like we get like something concrete.
Yeah.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I think that's the funnest possible permutation for me, right? Because you can have as much fun as you want when you're doing the enigmatic stuff, and then when you get those real personal moments, you can kind of sink your teeth into it, and it's cool. It's like a 1-2 punch because people aren't. I don't know that they're expecting it or they don't see it coming when you're enigmatic and mysterious and a legendary pirate for so long. It kind of makes those emotionally significant moments a little bit more poignant, which is cool.
For sure. And Matthew, Law also ends up explaining a lot of stuff about the world or politics of One Piece. What's it like to kind of be the smarter voice of reason in this insane world of One Piece?
Yeah, what's that like?
It's the power of exposition. It's something I'm familiar with. No, it's to your point. It's a world of extremely wild, over the top characters. Like every single time we go in for a session, and there'll be a new design that'll show up, and I'll look at the screen and be like, "Oh, One Piece never change." It just gets wilder and wilder. But what makes it work is that underneath all this insane visual aesthetic is consistent world building and real emotional stakes and reasons for things to exist and for characters to do what they do. And Law gets to be one of those characters that is a delivery device, not just for the information, but a very clear opinion and perspective on the world, and is moving through whether or not you're coming with him. And so one, it's nice to have that in a story that can get really wild like this. And two,
Yeah.
it's an honor to be the individual to deliver it, and not just deliver it in a way where it's like, I believe this, but also can point out some of the more ridiculous things and be like, yeah, I know it's kind of ridiculous, but it's what we're working with. You know, like it's a very grounded voice in a wild world. And you need that type of a character to relate to when things are absolutely insane. And so, and it makes it easy to perform because I often feel like that. I'm like, I don't know, just go with it.
You
Yeah,
get
that
to be
made
the
a lot
voice
of
of the
sense.
incredulous audience.
Yes.
that viewer who's going, this is a terrible idea.
Yep.
That's so awesome. That's all the time I have. Thank you guys for taking the time to do this. The movie was great, and I'm wishing you guys all the best.
Thank you so
you.
much.
It was fun.